Now we are going to discuss the perífrasis verbales del participio. What are they? As you may recall, a perífrasis verbal is a construction of two verbs that function as one unit. They always have a conjugated auxiliary verb, which sets the person, the number, and the tense. And then they have a main verb in a non-personal form. In the case of perífrasis verbales de participio, as the name suggests, the main verb will be a participle. But here's the catch. Unlike the perífrasis verbales de infinitivo or gerundio, the perífrasis de verbal participio does agree in gender and number with the noun it refers to, or with the direct object if there is one. This is key for you to remember to avoid mistakes. If it's not clear, we will see examples that will help you see this more clearly and to remember this. We're generally going to use this perífrasis verbal to speak about the result of an action, a state, or the repetition of an action. Let's have a look at some common ones. One of the most frequent ones is tener plus participle. We use this either to express possession or the result of an action. For example, I could say, tengo terminados todos los informes. What does that mean? It could either mean that I have finished all of the reports. In this case, the emphasis would be put on me. I have finished them. But it could also be translated as I have all of the reports finished, which in this case would put the emphasis on all of the reports being finished rather than on the person who has done that. If you see here, the word terminados is a masculine word in plural. It will agree with the noun it refers to. In this case, the reports, los informes, also plural and masculine. Example number 2. La biblioteca tiene cerradas las puertas. How would you translate that? It means the library has its doors closed. So the verb tiene is an auxiliary verb and it will agree with the subject, which in this case is la biblioteca. But the participle, cerradas, agrees with the noun it refers to. So cerradas is feminine and plural. It agrees with the noun doors, which is also feminine and plural in Spanish, las puertas. Another widely used perífrasis is llevar plus participle. For example, I could say, llevo leídas 10 páginas del libro, meaning I have read 10 pages of the book so far. As we said before, the participle leídas agrees with the noun it refers to, the pages. Pages is feminine and plural in Spanish. So leídas is also feminine and plural. I could also say, llevamos escritas 3 canciones para el nuevo álbum. We have written 3 songs for the new album. Escritas also agrees in gender and number with the word canciones. So if you don't know about perífrasis verbales, when you see a phrase like this, llevamos escritas 3 canciones, could be confusing for you because generally we teach you that llevar is to take, right? So you could say, we take written 3 songs, where are we taking them? So you need to be able to recognize perífrasis verbales so that you understand correctly what we mean when we talk. This serves as an example to explain also that sometimes, even though we do have a tense that is equivalent to the one that we use in English, we use a perífrasis verbal to convey an idea in a more natural way. So instead of saying, for example, hemos escrito 3 canciones para este álbum, we could say, llevamos escritas 3 canciones para este álbum. Normally, foreigners will try to use the pretérito perfecto compuesto, which is the equivalent tense for the present perfect in English, so that you would feel that you are saying exactly what you would say in English. We have written 3 songs for this album. However, we as natives might choose to go with the perífrasis verbal instead, which feels more natural for us. Another perífrasis verbal de participio is dar plus por plus participle. We use this when we refer to an action that is considered finished or a fact that is taken for granted. For example, we could say, doy por terminado el proyecto. If you don't know about perífrasis verbales, doy means I give. Terminado means finish and the project. So I give, finish the project would be really confusing. It means that I consider that this project has already been finished. Doy por terminado el proyecto. I am considering that this project is now complete. So for example, in Congress, people would say, damos por terminada la sesión. This session is over. Some perífrasis verbales with the participio express the result of an action. For example, we can use estar plus participle or quedar plus participle. I could say la puerta está abierta. That is a clear example of a perífrasis verbal de participio because the word abierta is a participle. So it means the door is open. I could also say, después del accidente quedó herido. After the accident, he was injured, or he was left injured after the accident. Here are some mistakes to avoid when using these perífrasis. As we said at the beginning of the video, the word in participle must agree with the noun it refers to, or the direct object. So one of the common mistakes is that people forget to have this agreement between the participle and the noun it refers to. For example, they could say things such as, tengo escrito las cartas. Because the subject is me doing the thing, doing the writing of the letters, they would say tengo, and they would tend to say also escrito. But you need to remember that the word escrito needs to agree with the noun las cartas. So that would be tengo escritas las cartas. We saw before when we spoke about the participles that such as English does with the verb learn, a verb may have two irregular past participles. For example, in the verb learn, I can spell learned with a T or learned with an ED. Both work. The same is true of Spanish. Sometimes verbs such as imprimir, to print, have two irregular participles, impreso or imprimido. So imprimido would follow the normal rules, whereas impreso is the irregular form. When we use perífrasis verbales, we tend to use the irregular forms. So we would say, tengo los folletos impresos, meaning I have the brochures printed. Now we're going to see how we use these perífrasis every day when we talk. For example, I could say, ya tengo preparada la cena. I already have dinner prepared. Or you would say, dinner is ready. Ya tengo preparada la cena. In this case, I am expressing the completion of a task that I had. I can also say, llevo estudiadas 3 horas para el examen. I have studied 3 hours for the exam so far. In this case, I would use the perífrasis to express an accumulated quantity of something. Llevo estudiadas 3 horas para el examen. I could also say, damos por hecho que vas a venir a la fiesta. We take it for granted that you will come to the party. In this case, I'm using the perífrasis to express taking for granted a situation. I can also say, hemos dado por concluida la búsqueda. Meaning, we have finished searching for somebody or something. This is normally used in journalistic language. When we watch TV or read newspapers, they will usually use a lot of these perífrasis to express actions that have been completed. Now it's time for us to go to multilinguals.com and do some exercises.